TravelWise with Phil Blizzard. News, views and interviews.
Hello, I'm Phil Blizzard with TravelWise news, views and interviews, and in this edition, we have a Thailand and flydubai focus. How are they linked together? Well, all will be revealed in a little while. Hope you're well. TravelWise, let's have a look what we've got lined up for you. We're going to be having a look at flydubai and their expansion. They've announced a lot of new destinations for next year, expanding their network. So we'll be taking a look at those destinations and the two in Thailand in particular, and catching up with an old broadcasting colleague of mine who's based in Hua Hin in the south, or well, just a couple of hours south of Bangkok. Works for a radio station there. We've linked up with him many times in the past, especially during the COVID era, to find out what's happening in the country. So reconnecting with Richard in terms of what's happening there from a tourist perspective, and other bits and bobs regarding tourism in Thailand. But before that, here's some aviation news.
TravelWise Aviation News.
Aviation news very much focused on flydubai and their continuing expansion, with 6 destinations announced earlier this month to commence. One this month and 5 beginning of next year. Well, this year, 2022, has seen flydubai launch flights to more than 20 destinations. So the new destinations, let's have a look at those. They range from Corfu in the west across to Thailand in the east. And recently, November the 24th, saw the launch of, or the resumption of flights to Hofuf in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now, beginning of next year, we'll see flydubai start services to Thailand, 2 destinations there, with Pattaya, or Pattaya if you like, not too far away from Bangkok, a couple of hours away, at the top of the Gulf of Thailand, and then down south, Krabi, wonderful destination, magnificent islands and landscape there, Krabi on the mainland, of course. Destinations islands close by to Krabi include Phi Phi and also Phuket. They start both services on the 20th of January, and the 2 destinations for flydubai will be a daily service. There you go, that's good. Moving on to March, flydubai will commence services to Milan. They're starting on the 10th of March with 5 flights, increasing to a daily service later on. Then in June, probably the start of their summer season in many ways perhaps, Cagliari in Sardinia, Italy. Yeah, that's an interesting destination. Went there a few years ago. flydubai will be commencing that service with 3 weekly flights, okay? And then later that month, on the 24th of June, flydubai will be going off to the Greek island of Corfu. That's on the western side of the country, with 2 flights weekly. So there you go, flydubai growing its network to 113 destinations in 53 countries. And now I mentioned Thailand, 2 destinations there. Going to be joining, as I said earlier, a former colleague of mine, a broadcasting colleague of mine, Richard Jackson, over in Hua Hin, the Royal Resort, which is a couple of hours south of Bangkok.
TravelWise with Phil Blizzard. News, views and interviews.
Well, that's the latest aviation news, and more about flydubai in the next part of this podcast. And now, as I said before, catching up with an old broadcasting friend of mine, Richard Jackson, in Thailand, Hua Hin, the Royal Resort, 2 hours south of Bangkok. So, quite some time since we last spoke, Richard.
Probably about a year.
Indeed.
Something like that.
Yeah, we had some valuable regular updates from you during the COVID era regarding what was happening, restrictions and things opening up. So, is it back to normal now with you?
Well, I think tourism is really increasing to quite a degree here, actually. Where we live in Hua Hin, which is just south of Bangkok, we're certainly seeing more people around, more tourists checking into hotels and checking into condominiums. There's a local airport here which has been considering taking international flights, but that hasn't happened yet. Hopefully that will do in the next few months. And then I think we'll see a huge influx into Hua Hin itself. But some of the other areas, certainly Bangkok's seen an increase in tourism. Also down in Phuket, to the south of the island down there, seen quite a large increase in the number of Russian visitors. There have been some Russian flights, Aeroflot, and I think another airline as well. So a lot of Russians have been rushing into Phuket over the past few weeks.
I think
it's interesting.
Yeah, a good indicator is the price of flights, which will always tell you if it's busy or not. And at the moment, just doing a bit of research for a trip to Thailand in January. I'm looking at flights for Emirates and Thai, and Emirates are Dubai, Bangkok, return of sort of around about the low 3,000 mark, which is a lot higher than it used to be. More like midway, actually, 3,600. And Thai Airways, well over 5,000. So it does indicate that things are pretty busy. Flights must be pretty packed with this dynamic pricing policy which everyone seems to adopt these days.
Well, things are certainly more expensive up in the air. When we went back to the UK earlier this year, I found the price of car rental was astronomical in the UK. I spent £2,500 on renting a car in the UK, which was I was expecting about 500 or 600 for the period that we were there.
Absolutely.
But luckily, if you're coming out to this part of the world, though, car rental's not quite so expensive.
That's good
very
to know.
Affordable, actually.
I mean, you live in Hua Hin, so you probably don't stay in hotels. But any idea of how the hotel industry are doing and what are their prices like?
Well, they certainly are picking up. I think there are still good deals to be had. Most of the 5 stars, in fact, the Marriott, I think, has been pretty well full on and off. The Centara, which was the big older hotel, that celebrates its 100th year early next year.
Oh, wow, that's perfect timing for my trip. I love that hotel. It's fabulous.
It certainly is.
Centara, the old railway hotel, isn't it? The old railway hotel.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because the Centara was the railway hotel. And, of course, 100 years ago, the railway was built through into Hua Hin, the railway station, which is a beautiful old-style red and white wooden building. Is still there, very popular with visitors. Now, that is 100 years old.
Wow.
There is the Hua Hin golf course right next to it, also 100 years old next year. So all these three, you've got the golf course, the railway, and the Centara Hotel, the old railway hotel, all celebrating at the same sort of time. So I know there are a lot of photos going up around the hotel showing what it was like, 80 or 100 years ago. And really amazing. It's an old colonial building, really large, a lot of open areas, lovely grassland, which leads down to the beach and the pools and things. So it's an absolutely beautiful place to go for your afternoon tea in the museum, as they call it. So it's well worth checking out if you're heading out here.
I remember staying there probably about 6 years ago. Fabulous hotel and a lot of character, a lot of history. And talking 100 years for the golf course, that hotel, the railway, and your birthday's next year, isn't it? So, no, you've been there a long time, but not 100 years, have you? So, sorry.
Well, no, not quite, but,
okay.
Closer to it.
Moving on, I just want to pick up something you said about the railway, because I remember a fabulous train journey from, where was it? It was Singapore through through Malaysia up to Bangkok many years ago. It was a fascinating train ride. Took quite a long time. There was chickens and everything on board.
Did you take the Orient Express?
No. It was just the milk train. It stopped everywhere along the route, I think. Fabulous journey. Okay. What an experience that was. It was really, really good. Right. Okay.
Well, they've been building... Sorry.
Let's carry on.
I was just going to say, they've been building a new railway line from Bangkok all the way down towards Malaysia, and that goes through Hua Hin, and that'll improve the train service between here and Bangkok, of course.
Yeah, of course.
And that is also likely to open next year, the same time as the 100th anniversary of the town. So things are looking good. In fact, since you were here, this new railway is actually elevated, and there's a brand new station which is basically up in the air, just next to the old station. It really is quite unusual, and that'll be open probably within about the next 6 months.
Interesting to see that combination, the old and the new. So next year is very significant for the town of Hua Hin. Going to bounce back now to aviation and flydubai, as I mentioned in the intro, launching flights to beginning of next year. Perfect timing, I think, to Krabi and also Pattaya. So they're going to be doing daily flights as of February the 20th to, let's say Krabi first of all, which is on the Andaman Sea. It's on the east side, isn't it, of the peninsula, and Pattaya, Bangkok on the sea, isn't it?
It's just right of Phuket, basically.
Okay, okay, very good. That's good. So
there you go.
You're our man on the ground, and if you just let me have a quick word here. If you just joined us, welcome along to the TravelWise podcast, talking with Richard Jackson, who's based in Hua Hin, south of Bangkok. Been there for many, many years. And I think, Richard, I mean, you know the region, you know the country very well. So give us a little, what should we say, a travel log for Krabi, where flydubai will be launching a service in February. It's the name of the region. It's also the name of the town, isn't it, Krabi?
Yeah, there is Krabi town, and of course it's also a district area, so there's obviously a lot of coastal area around there as well. Very, very beautiful. I think one of the James Bond movies was shot down there in part, and in fact several movies have been produced around that area. So you see those incredible rock formations that you may have seen photos of.
Sure.
It is a beautiful fishing area as well. It's still got that old feel to it, but it is still now well connected. They've been expanding the airport, really developing the terminal area, extending the runway area. They're hoping to eventually get around 8 million visitors through there per year. So that'll be interesting.
That will be, yeah.
But you can fly into Krabi, which is a great alternative to Phuket, and then you can just rent a car and drive around to Phuket if you want. It's about a 45-minute drive, maybe an hour's drive, depending where you want to go. But it's such a picturesque, beautiful area, well worth basically flying into. Yeah.
I suppose a gateway to places, other islands nearby, famous islands like Phi Phi, for example.
Yes, if you wanted to go to Phi Phi Island, yes, of course, it's very close. But then again, you could also, if you can get a car, I think is really important if you want to see the area. And you would probably need, in fact, it's wise to have an international driving license if you're going to go into Thailand. A lot of people don't bother. A lot of people just try and use their own country's license.
Sure.
But there is often, a little bit of ambiguity with the insurance companies when you do that. So
very
you need to take a little bit of precaution.
Richard, thank you. That's a very useful tip indeed. International driving license if you're going to Thailand. And So we're talking about flydubai starting a service to Krabi as of February the 20th. Now, I suppose you could do it as a two-centre destination, flying into Krabi. And what's it like getting from Krabi up to Bangkok?
Well, you can certainly fly. There are regular domestic flights up to Bangkok. I'm not sure how many times a day or week, but, it's on a regular basis.
Yep.
The other way, of course, is you can take a bus, of course, from downtown straight up to Bangkok.
Interesting,
Or, again, rent a car. Road driving in Thailand is really very good, despite some of the creative driving you might hear about.
Creative driving,
The quality of the roads overall is generally very, very good. And you can drive between Phuket or Krabi and then on up into Bangkok. And it's a beautiful drive. And, then it's worth stopping perhaps Hua Hin halfway and then go on to Bangkok and further, the following day, for example. It's a great idea and it's so easily done.
I think that's one condition. If you're driving from Krabi up to Bangkok, you got to stop off over in Hua Hin for at least 1 or 2 days. Yeah. Especially next year with the 100th anniversary. Right, okay, Bangkok, the capital of Thailand, across to Pattaya, or Pattaya, which is the correct pronunciation?
Well, it's kind of a yin and yang, really. I mean, I call it Pattaya, I always have done. Some people call it something else. So, that's fine.
Is it fair to say it's Bangkok on the sea?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay, fair enough.
Close.
Elaborate.
But, government is developing that whole region of Pattaya. All right, so if you take Bangkok up in the north, it's like at the top of the tooth. There's Bangkok. To the southwest is Hua Hin. To the southeast is Pattaya. Yep. And of course you've got the Gulf of Thailand, so you can go down there. So they're really developing all of that stretch from Bangkok through Chonburi down to Pattaya, down to Rayong, which is more of an industrial area, it is on permanent development, really. Pattaya is still a bit of a fun sin city, I guess. A lot of people might call it that. But it's also got cleaned up quite a bit. There's a lot of good stuff down there. There's a lot of good facilities. If you like I guess infrastructure is a lot better than it was, and the quality of hotels and stays there are much, much better than, say, 5 or 10 years ago. So there's been a lot of development, and the other thing is that they really want to boost the IT infrastructure around that area. They're really trying to, encourage business to develop there. There's a seaport at Chonburi, and of course the airport, the Pattaya airport, which is actually called Utapao Airport, that's been under renovation and expansion. That's pretty well ongoing. And they're also developing on a high-speed train between the airport and Pattaya through Chonburi up to Bangkok. So, the whole region is really in the process of being developed.
Yeah, and from what you're saying there, could be the Silicon Valley of Thailand with the interest in IT and so on. And I remember driving through or going on a coach through Pattaya to the port to get over to the island of, let me try and remember, this is a long, long time ago, Koh Samet.
Koh Samet.
Koh Samet. Nice island.
Koh Samet is... Okay, Koh Samet is... Okay, I mentioned Bangkok, Chonburi, Pattaya, Rayong. Koh Samet's the next one down in the middle of the sea. It's a little island just off the Rayong coast. And you can get a little fishing boat out there. It only takes a little while, half an hour, 40 minutes to get over. And it was beautiful. I haven't been there for many years.
Part of a national park.
It's still very attractive.
Yeah, and getting the boat from, if I remember rightly, it's coming back to me slowly. Bang Pei, I think it was, the little port of Bang Pei. Yeah, so great. So that's a new a new destination being offered by flydubai, starting service from Dubai to Pattaya on February the 20th. So, Richard, thanks very much indeed for that overview. Great stuff. It's been really good talking to you, and I think the key thing I'm going to take away from this is the 100th anniversary of the town of Hua Hin, the Royal Resort, where you've been living for quite some time, and hopefully you can get over there next year and catch up with you on the ground.
We should talk again soon about this, Phil, I think, because I think there's going to be quite a lot going on in the early part of next year.
I think we'll do a Hua Hin 100-year anniversary special podcast. Richard, you take care.
There you go.
Stay cool, and all the best to you.
Thank you, Phil.
TravelWise with Phil Blizzard. News, views, and interviews.
And if you would like to have a podcast production for your organisation, do get in touch with me. Drop me an email, philblizzardmedia@gmail.com.
A Phil Blizzard radio production.